Hello there, Drew Handish of Whiskey Lore, and time for another whiskey tasting. And we're going to Ireland today with a hint of Scotland. And so I will tell you about that here in just a moment. The whiskey is ATHRU, pronounced ATHRÚ. ATHRÚ. So that TH is silent, and the distillery is Lough Gill. And it looks like Lough Gill, I know, but it is Lough Gill. Believe me, I mispronounced it a couple of times. Knowing how I'm supposed to say it, but visualizing the name in my head and going, I don't know how to get Lough out of that, but this is the Irish language. And when you get to the west coast of Ireland, you're going to get a lot of names like that will be, they're not pronounced quite the way that you think that they're going to be pronounced. And so this particular whiskey that I'm going to be tasting is a 14-year-old single malt Irish whiskey. KNOCKNAREA is the name of it. And what makes this whiskey very interesting, this is a sourced whiskey because Lough Gill has not been around for a long time, not 14 years for sure. In fact, the place that you would expect them to have probably sourced this whiskey from, Great Northern Distillery, you think, they have only been around for 10 years. So this likely is juice that came from Cooley Distillery. Prior to that, I would guess. I'm not sure. As I understand it, this particular person from Scotland came over and helped them pick out a large variety of casks. And so the man's name is Billy Walker, the legendary Billy Walker, who is with Glenallachie, and prior to that had owned the three distilleries that Brown-Forman now owns, being Glendronach, Glenglassa, and Benriach. And so Billy Walker helped out, got all of these casks chosen. They've been aging over a period of time, and then what Lough Gill decided was, let's put it into a trilogy series. So what they're going to do is, the plan is they're going to do 3 trilogies, kind of like the Star Wars series, with a focus on Irish history and mythology in these 3 different series. And so it'll be very interesting to see what they do with that. And it will also be very interesting to see how these ideas that I heard while I was visiting the distillery progress under new management. Because I don't know if you heard the news or not. I don't know how closely you're paying attention to the Irish whiskey industry at the moment, but Lough Gill was recently purchased by Sazerac, like yesterday. And so now it's joining brands like Buffalo Trace, Sazerac Rye, 1792, Southern Comfort, and 2 Irish whiskeys that Sazerac has in their portfolio, one being Paddy's, which will now be made at Lough Gill, and Michael Collins. Now, I haven't had the Michael Collins. I've had Paddy's. I had it while I was in Belfast, and I gotta say I was not really impressed, but it's a $20 bottle, so it's a value whiskey, probably a mixer. I don't know. Maybe it will improve in quality, or they'll have some different whiskeys coming out under that. But hopefully they hang on to ATHRÚ as well, because these whiskeys, I did a little sample ahead of time and try to get some tasting notes down on these before I jumped into it, because there's a lot going on in these. These are 14-year-old whiskeys. Wow. Nice nose on that. Oh, wood spice coming through, along with some brown sugar from the bourbon barrels it was in. And then it was finished in Oloroso Sherry casks. Some wood shavings in there. Grassy note. I get, there's a lot of wood in this. And then you pick up some leather notes in there as well, maybe a hint of tobacco. Little underlying apple and pear comes in for some sweetness underneath. I'm telling you, for people who have created in their mind an impression of what Irish whiskey is, if I learned anything by going across this island, your mind is going to be changing over time. There is some amazing stuff going on right now. Now, what I will say is that a lot of that amazing stuff is originating out of Cooley Distillery or Great Northern Distillery, two distilleries that are well established and are providing a lot of juice, just like MGP does here in the United States. But I've also tasted some new make along the way, which is very impressive as well. And when I was at Lough Gill, I was picking up a lot of citrusy notes in their new make. So it'll be interesting to see if that becomes a characteristic of their whiskeys. Oh man. Yeah, the wood notes on this, I mean, you get kind of that old tobacco-y warehouse kind of smell coming through on this. It's very prevalent. I don't know that I would have gone much further than 14 years on this for sure, because it's going to really, it is very complex at the moment, but I sense that it's getting very close to becoming very woody after this, because there's a lot of wood notes in this. Cheers. The raisins are in there. There's a caroby chocolate that comes in, kind of surrounds those raisins, and man, when you get to the finish of this, the berry flavor, it's kind of like a blueberry muffin flavor that comes through on this. Slight pepperiness, not a lot, maybe a hint of tannins at the beginning. A little bit of that citrus peel comes through on the finish. It dries a little bit, but for the Oloroso Sherry cask fan, man, this has a really nice finish on it. I would put this up against any Speyside whiskey that I've had. For my personal taste, it's probably a bit too influenced by the Oloroso Sherry cask. In other words, I think at 12 years, at 13 years, I probably this would have been perfect for me. But if you like those characteristics and you don't mind a lot more of that tobacco and leather coming through, then I think you're going to enjoy this whiskey. It definitely shows a lot of finesse, and they've really taken care of those casks that they got in, and Billy Walker did a great job in choosing the casks for this. Now, this is in a Trilogy Series, and so I will be covering the other two bottles, but this is the KNOCKNAREA, and each of these within this trilogy each have a story that go with them. So if you buy a big box of these, if you can find them, because I think it's a limited edition, a little booklet comes with it as well in the box. So they didn't only give me a nice presentation, but they apparently went all the way with the presentation with the other whiskeys that they did. So looking forward to doing tastings on these other two. But this is a very good whiskey, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing more of what comes out of ATHRÚ and Lough Gill. And now it'll be interesting to see what happens with Lough Gill now that it's part of the Sazerac family. If you enjoyed the video, learned something from it, I got you excited about Irish whiskey in some way, give me a like, subscribe if you'd like to watch more of these videos. I'd love to have you on board. And have you tried ATHRÚ, or have you tried some Irish whiskeys that you think that I should cover here on the video channel? Then just let me know, all right? And until next time, I'm going to enjoy this one. Cheers, and Slainte. Almost confectionery kind of thing coming in there too, but just very slight. Oh, the complexity on this is fascinating.